Hello and welcome to another episode of the Young Tongues podcast. My name is Barbara Fountain and I am the founder and CEO of the Young Tongues, a peer support charity for young tongue cancer patients. Thank you so much for joining us again. I have another fabulous guest for you in stall. One of our OG members. He was there on day one. Ben, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Barbara, thanks for having me.
Now, Ben, we love to ask everyone at the very beginning, who is Ben beyond the tongue cancer diagnosis? So if you can introduce yourself and lay the land, who is Ben? Where are you from? What do you do? What do you love?
I'm originally from Yorkshire, but I now live in Derby, and I live on my little narrow boat with my dog, Ozzy. Enjoy going out, hiking, bit out into the countryside, and yeah, been outside more than inside. And I work as like gardening and maintenance for a marina.
Amazing. So Ben, we just start at the beginning. I guess if we look at your journey, you're a bit like me, as in it's been a little while since you were diagnosed. Can you put your memory back to when did you first realise something was wrong? How did you get diagnosis, and what treatments did you have?
Yeah, I let's see. I found an ulcer, I suppose, would be. It didn't look particularly friendly. It looked sort of Andy, but I sort of had the usual home remedies if you've ever had an ulcer. Um, a bit of salt water, that kind of thing, or sodium, that kind of thing to try and help it, or the gel. None of that worked. I thought, and if anything, it seems to get worse. I've been told it's infected, so I booked in to see the GP, who had a look at it and said that might possibly be something that def- I'm going to refer you. Um, but here's some antibiotics as well, just in case it is just an infection. But if it clears up, still go. Um, I finished the antibiotics, it hadn't cleared, if anything, it got worse. Um, and I went to the, let's see, that was, yeah, I finished the antibiotics at the end of August, so start of September, I went in to see the net team. And the first consultant took one look at it and went out and got the head consultant.
Straight away knew something
Yeah,
wasn't right.
I spent the entire day there. Oh, that was so tiring. That's the one thing I remember from that. I've been so tired from it. Um, so I, I went, yeah, I got diagnosed. Then they sent me for an X-ray. Then photograph. Then booked in for the MRI and CT. And then back to see the consultant and all the junior doctors that were there as well, and they all like, had to have a look as well. So what should have basically been like a few minutes in a room to have a look at something turned into several hours in a hospital. Um, yeah, had the MRI and CT like a couple of weeks later, and then I had my biopsy. Yeah, biopsy was September the 11th.
And how many years ago is that now?
Uh, that was 7 years ago.
7 years ago. So, and after the biopsy, so did you say you already got your diagnosis before the biopsy, or was it like
After,
after?
after, got all the X-rays and everything to see what we were dealing with. Um, had the biopsy, then went back in at the end of September, and that's when I was hit with the words that we've all heard similar to. It is cancer, it is malignant, and this one is quite a size. Um, I brought the scan and showed me that it was like 75, maybe a bit more percent than my son with tumour.
Mm.
Um, and I'd have to remove like 80% of the son, replace it with
The flap.
uh,
Yeah.
a flat, as you can see it, I'm not sure.
Yeah. So,
Um,
from the get go, you knew it was already quite extensive.
yeah,
Yeah. So 80. So the surgery was 80% of the tongue,
yeah,
forearm
like
flap,
70% was like tumour, and then they had to have extra bits for
margin. Yes.
margins. Yeah,
And I assume neck dissections. That goes without saying. Did you have it on
yeah,
both sides?
full neck dissection.
Full neck dissection. And did you already know did they already give you a heads up in terms of what to expect beyond surgery? So, like radiation?
Yeah, I was told that steps radiation and chemotherapy because of the size of it.
Mm,
Um, and the odds were not in my favour for talking or eating again.
mm,
Obviously, I've proven on there.
yes. But
Uh,
initially they were giving you the heads up. Hey, look, you probably never will be able to eat again.
I think there's got to be like worst case, just in case.
Yeah,
Expect the worst, hope for the best, and
yeah,
then see what happens.
yeah. So you went through the surgery. I assume you had some time to heal, and then
Um,
commenced radiation chemo.
yeah, had the surgery. Um, that was in October. Yeah, surgery was early October. Out of hospital by mid October. So sort of we started at the end of November. So I had like a month and a bit.
Mm.
During that time between surgery and radiation. Oh yeah, they decided to just do radiation and not chemotherapy.
Oh, so they didn't do chemo. Okay, radiation only.
I
That's
thought that it was
great.
likely and highly likely, and then they changed their mind for some reason and decided to keep the chemotherapy in place. Um, but between the surgery and the radiation, I managed to learn to eat again and was eating solids quite well.
Mm.
Um, and then I started radiation, obviously. Hmm, is that it? That wasn't bad.
In
And
on
it's
day
like,
one, yeah.
mm,
Yeah. So day one, it was like, oh, this is a strange experience, and then it escalated. So I guess, when did you first have your first inkling in what you were in for during radiation? Was it like a
um,
week or days or?
about week two, I started to get some fatigue symptoms and like you know what when the onset of the told me that I like scratch me in my throat. Um, that they were my first symptoms. They were the
Mm,
first symptoms of side effect. And that was about week two.
yeah. So did you say blisters in your inside your neck?
Like scratches, like
Scratches, like itching. Yeah.
yeah,
That would be the
um,
burning,
yeah.
I assume. Yeah.
Extremely didn't do too badly with the. I seem to get more of a deep tan than anything else. Maybe I've seen some
Yeah. But
like poor
internally,
stress and that, you know, where I ended up with massive blisters everywhere as well.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that was only week two. And then you get, how many weeks did you do in total? It's about
I did
35
I did
rounds,
six
isn't it?
weeks, so 30, but I had to go back a few times. Towards the end, I started to struggle. The swelling got to the point where every time I laid down flat, I couldn't breathe. That was it with steroids and stuff like that, but it meant that I had to go home. But there also wasn't like to nest a session, so to speak. I had to come back in on the Saturday.
Yeah.
So that made Christmas and New Year's quite fun. Like,
I can imagine. It's never well. There's
that's
never a
my,
good time of year,
yeah.
but that time of year seems to be especially difficult. Yeah. So we're now going. Yeah, we're coming towards the end of the year. When did you finish, and what do you feel?
I finished at the start of January. Um, I was utterly exhausted. Everything was swollen. Um, I did manage to walk. I made a promise to myself that I would walk up and down the stairs to the radiotherapy lounge, and I managed to do that all the way through.
Yeah, to keep
I didn't.
active, keep your
I,
body
I,
moving.
I didn't use the lift. Um, it's, some people are like, oh, well, they should just use them. They're energy. It's just like, yeah, but I want to keep moving. And it's a little thing that I promised myself that I definitely will do. I'm doing it.
That's great. So, as many of us know, you finish radiation, but the effects of radiation don't stop. I guess when did you start to feel better physically in terms of when did you feel like, oh yeah, I can feel things starting to heal? Because it
It's
does
hard to
take a bit longer
pinpoint.
than what people expect.
Mm, it's hard to pinpoint because it wasn't sort of felt better. It was just, I looked back and then like, oh, actually, I haven't felt that bit as the badness for quite a while. It dropped off without you knowing. Like I often say it's a bit like you go into a tunnel and there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but you've got to get to the end and it's like, oh right, there's no bulb, I've got to put a new bulb in. Here's the light, and that's where I've been. Ah, I have done quite a distance, haven't I? Yeah,
Yeah, it kind of creeps up on you. So we've purposefully rushed through
yeah,
your diagnosis and treatment because I thought it was interesting to have a chat with someone who's 7 years out
yeah,
and who has been impacted by the side effects during treatment, but also long-term effects since. And one of the, I guess, most noticeable impacts is the impact on your speech.
yes.
And we've had a chat about this, and we wanted to have it on this podcast as well, because I'm not going to put it delicately. I'm just going to say it as it is. Sometimes it's harder to understand you. Now,
Yeah,
funnily enough, today you are as clear as you are, and I guess that's to do the temperature has picked up. I know in the as in like winter can be difficult, or when it's really hot it can be difficult. So I guess if we focus on speech for a little bit, my first question is, how do you manage when people don't understand you, and how would you like people to react when they don't understand you? So what is your experience of that? Like, I assume you notice when people don't
yes.
understand.
Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes you are talking away and then you sort of zone in on the face and it's got that bland expression of I've not thought any of that. And it's like, but at what point did you lose me? Um, but it's difficult to. I don't want to realise that everything again. Um, so please, if you don't understand, please say, sorry, can you stop there and just repeat that last bit? Um,
So you're quite happy for people to interrupt you actually and just go, oh,
yeah,
hold on, Ben, can you just wind back? I got to this part, and then you either say it again or you say it in a different way, I assume.
yeah. Or if the still can't understand me, I'll just write it down. I have to do that on the surname a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Um,
do you use any other tools like digital, like apps and things like to voice? Because I know
I've
there's a lot
tried
of people who use those.
I've tried some of the apps, some quite good apps out there that are really helpful. But for me, I found them a bit annoying, but I found them sort of worked out how to do that. I can write it down on a bit of paper faster.
Mm.
Um, so it's hit and miss. It has a massive use. So
Mm.
everyone's got the phone in the pocket, always got access to something that isn't, so it's really helpful. But like I say, from the self, I found um, trying to speak helps me learn to try and speak more.
Mm.
Um, but also it's just as puts me through that and a slap of paper.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's always a personal preference with gadgets, and I guess I think you make a really good point because you don't want to become too reliant on something. So
yeah.
sometimes you have to do the hard and frustrating stuff to keep your muscles and your speech going. Ben, how does it make you feel? How do you feel about your speech? How do you feel in everyday life?
Well, with regards like each of them, if I find that I sometimes aren't happy with how I sound. Um,
You're not
no,
sorry.
I'm not happy with how I sound sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people say, well, you speak really well. Um, and that's not always what I mean and what I'm presuming a lot of other people mean. Um, what they mean is they miss how they used to sound. And they don't sound like that again because it's gone.
Mm.
Um, and I do miss like dexterity in the way I used to, or
Do you
learn
miss
different
it?
words and yeah.
Do you miss it, Ben? Do you miss your old voice?
Mm,
I'd never thought about it because I've only ever known you like this.
yeah.
So yeah, so that's the Ben I know. So, but I guess how how do you have you come to terms with that yet, or is that a process?
Um, Not so, it's a process, but I have come to terms with it. You have to, otherwise you'll ever be upset about it. Which there's no point being look there. Obviously, yeah, sometimes it does sort of upset you. So that's not what I'm saying. But if that's all you're focused on, then you're not going to enjoy everything else that you've fought so hard to live and see and enjoy.
Mm.
But it is a hard thing to realize it's all this, and you've done it for one purpose, and that purpose is to have a life at the end of it.
Yeah, not just surviving, but
Yeah.
having something to live for. How do you feel? And this is just me being curious, and please tell me to back off if you don't want to answer. But I can only imagine. I'm like you, an incredibly chatty person, and I express myself a lot through my words. And also that's how I forge connections with other people and I bond with other people. Do you sometimes feel, especially when interacting with people from outside of our community, do you feel that the lack of people giving you the time to express yourself? I don't know. Basically, what I'm asking is like, do you feel isolated sometimes? Do you feel lonely because of that?
Um, Not lonely, but I do sometimes feel isolated from it sometimes. And there are times when you sort of that energy plunging. Why am I here? I might as well just disappear off somewhere. Um, But I find sometimes it's weird, because sometimes you, you expect the impatience from people, and then they're patient with you, and that shows you, oh,
Mm.
um, oh, I wasn't expecting that. Thank you very much, but now I'm confused. Like I was expecting you to be wanting me to speak faster than I can. Um, I have to slow down my speech, um, which is that's how it works. Like when you're chatty, you speak a mile a minute. And I have done since I was little.
So you consciously actually have to slow down your speech, so the pronunciation is clearer for the person
Mm.
listening. But I can totally get that someone listening might get like um impatient and wanting you to get to your point, but actually it is really important to slow it down, because otherwise you don't understand it, and then what's the point? There was one of our fellow young tongues put on the group not that long ago. It was just after Christmas, about how she felt invisible in these group
Yeah,
settings, and that really really hit me. And I thought, wow, yeah, it's just like, it's almost like you said, why am I here? Like, I can't. No one's giving me space to interact or to talk, because the flow of the conversation is so fast. By the time I can hook in, it's already moved on. I assume that's something you experience as well.
yeah. Um, that, and also some people want to like treat you as though you're no longer you, just as you can't speak like you used to. I've had enough patience, and now it's not a blame. Blame works how it used to. I mean, admittedly, there are certain mental um, health aspects that come along with this, um, like trauma and stuff like that can create sort of almost dementia type symptoms for certain people. Did with me. Um, my focus was gone. I couldn't focus on stuff and stuff like that. But I was still primarily myself. I could still think and I could still do stuff. Um,
And you're all here. Don't
yeah,
talk to me like an idiot. I'm not.
yeah.
You don't have brain damage. You just need a bit longer to form your words. Oh God, that makes me angry on your behalf, just thinking about that. Yeah, and you've I guess maybe early on. I assume you just don't surround yourself with those people anymore, but
No.
incredibly hurtful. Yeah. So now, having established that I can interrupt you whenever I want, and thank you for giving me permission, Ben. I will not interrupt you when I do understand you. I will hold myself back, but you know what I'm like. So let's move on from the speech, and talk about food and nourishment, especially sort of coming out of treatment and the slow progress, because like many others, you were told you're probably never going to eat again.
Yeah.
You've had quite extensive, the surgery itself will have had a huge impact, even though I know you
I
were
was
able
lucky
to
enough,
eat.
yeah.
Yeah, you were eating, but then the radiation will have further had a bigger impact. So after radiation, where were you in terms of being able to eat food, and what kind of food?
I'd gone from being able to eat solid foods to I was stuck on the 46.
Yeah, our
Um,
favourite shakes, 46 shakes. What?
and I was losing weight, and the number of 46 that put me on was woefully inadequate to me. Um, and I almost double what they recommended. I'm still losing weight, but in more sort of a controlled amount.
Mm.
Um, Instead of losing a lot of weight constantly, I lost like a small percentage
So you
every week.
were so you were able to slow down the weight loss
Mm.
throughout treatment, and was that just with forticeps, or were you having
46 and yogurt and what else did I have?
ice cream,
Yeah,
probably?
some ice cream, but I had to melt it down. I hadn't had it
Yeah,
as ice cream. I had to like have it almost like a running milkshake type.
yeah.
Milkshakes, um, and a lot of coffee with, um, and for exercising that, I'm packing that with tea.
I basically always say double cream becomes your friend. Anything high fat.
I needed it, and I still losing weight. That's the thing.
And when because and then the other aspect is the pain of swallowing,
Yeah.
of having the blistering inside. How just for someone who's in that situation now and maybe is not long out of radiation, and not to pin it down on a moment, but just to illustrate that there is progress, because I know you eat fairly normally now. How would you describe, how did you push yourself to keep progressing?
Um, there's the let's see, there's sort of a mental aspect to it. As I have to do this, or I won't be able to do this. Um, and it hurts. It hurts. There's no way around it. It hurts. And the hard part is going, oh, that looks like a simple food. I will have that. For example, baked beans, based on a tomato sauce. Wet and handy. And then you have it, and then you feel like you've been sat in molten lava. And you're sat there in pain, and then that was a mistake.
So that would be the acidity of the tomato
Mm.
basically burns because of the radiation. It burns the inside of your mouth, and
Well,
and
yeah,
and
all the skin, everything's been stripped inside.
and I guess the tough journey of this is that you have to keep exposing and trying different foods, but also go back to the ones that have hurt you before to see if they're still hurt. And
And
I
then
guess there's
even if it doesn't hurt, you've got the lovely part at the end of I've now got something in my mouth.
so
And
so
what
if you're able to swallow it,
yeah.
it's then what's left in your mouth to clean it out. Yeah, is that right?
And you've got to use toothpaste or mouthwash, and both burn no matter what you use. It's like, oh, that food didn't hurt me, but this bit is about to. Um, and it's so off-putting, and combine that with, for me, I seem to have got away lightly in that I had a metallic taste, I had salt taste, like everything tasted like apart from coffee, everything tasted like I was drinking seawater. It was horrible. Um, but I know some people have had a lot worse. Um,
I mean, everyone's different. The taste
and
buds
that
get
puts it off, doesn't it?
yeah, the taste buds get disrupted, and I know some people have said they've tasted something that's meant to be sweet and then it tastes like battery acid or like alcohol or something that's sweet and then it's salty or it just messes with you. with your senses in that sort of sense. In that sense, no, I need a bigger vocabulary here. So
you've got horrible face, you've got a lot of pain, followed by some more pain. And you just sort of say, I'm doing this, not for now, I'm doing this so that I can, once everything heals, I can eat. But the problem is that everything shrinks down if you don't use it. It's harder to get it back than it is to keep it going.
And I assume you were doing all of this under the supervision of speech and language as well, and swallow. So to make sure I'm just conscious of anyone listening, because we don't want anyone asphyxiating or not being able to swallow. But it was done in a safe way.
I first started under speech and language, but I was sort of under my own devices once I've learned not to, what wasn't safe and what was safe. But the main thing is, if you suspect that you've inhaled anything, don't wait. Go and get checked out, and they'll put an endoscope down and just have a look, make sure your lungs are clear. And plus that's the aspiration will rapidly lead to an infection that can lead to pneumonia, that can put you in a severe issue in hospital. So even if I suspected something, don't pretend like I haven't. Go and get it checked.
Yeah. So if you're struggling with the actual functionality of swallowing, you really need to reach out to your speech and language therapist, your team, and they will put you in touch with the right person.
I was fortunate. I didn't have that issue of it going the wrong way.
And you felt and it's something that you notice, isn't it? So you felt confident that actually, yes, this burns and hurts, but it's not dangerous, and I'm going to continue to push it so I don't lose the ability that I've had, which is very commendable. You mentioned something. I just want to circle back to it because I think it's a really interesting conversation. We've not had it on the podcast yet, and we really should have it more and more. And I hope I'll be able to get some dental professionals on here, because it's a discussion I've been having of late with dental professionals, and I don't think they quite appreciate how painful some of the products are that they give us. So I will make the assumption, Ben, that seeing as you've had radiation, you have a prescription for a toothpaste with high fluoride. Do you know what? I can't remember the name of it.
It was just that, but now it's Morningside.
Okay. So
that still exists, but my pharmacy at Morningside instead now.
Okay, so it's basically same stuff, different packaging.
It's like 10,000 parts per million fluoride.
Yeah. And am I right in thinking that these toothpastes are not flavoured, so they're just natural?
No, they're mint.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? So
apparently there is a neutral one, but I've never seen it.
So can you tell our listeners, for those that don't know, what effect does mint have on a mouth after radiation?
Okay, let's see. Go and have the hottest fluid that you can have on the face of the planet. And after you finish that, wash it down with a boiling hot cup of tea.
I think that's a very accurate description.
That might bring me close to how painful that stuff can be. Because it burns, but it builds and builds and builds. And then everything gets inflamed and it's not nice.
Yeah. And thank you, Ben, for sharing that. And I will quote you on that going forward, because I came across someone at a conference recently I won't say which one, and a person very flippantly said, "Oh, but they just get Durafat and it shouldn't be a problem." And I was just like, because I hadn't had my own personal experience, I found it very difficult to articulate exactly what you articulated. And she was quite flippant about it. So thank you for that. And now on top of that, you're having to do this daily and multiple times a day after every time you eat. And are you still going through that experience, or has it gotten better with the years?
I seem to tolerate better. I seem to tolerate it better. But I know some people really struggle with it, and I understand perfectly why, because it is quite painful. Um, I seem to have built up a tolerance to that toothpaste. I will, I will say that for some reason, more inside seem to be slightly less burny than that, but that might be just a result
And
of someone's
also,
before switching over.
yeah, and also again, individualism. So someone else might get on better with another one,
Mm,
and there are no doubtedly there will be people who get on with Durafat with no problem and
yeah.
absolutely fine. So, okay, so that's really interesting, because that sort of echoes the majority of feedback that we get in the group. In terms of oral health, how do you feel about your oral health in terms of brushing, taking care of it, flossing, all the tens of thousands of things we're meant to do, your regular checkups? Um, Now 7 years, after, where would you rate your oral health is at the moment?
Um, Mine is quite well at the moment. Um, I do quite well with the hygiene. There are times when I have problems, um, like when the temperature's um, like extremely cold, extremely high, or the extreme humidity, or I'm unwell or tired. That can take like swelling, which aggravates fibrosis in my mouth, which tightens everything up, which means trying to get in there with a toothbrush is almost impossible, but I do my best with it. And so far, my best with it is good enough. Um, but I know that radiation can cause a lot of damage in there, so then I think I've been quite lucky as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, and not to put a downer on it, but also you still have quite a lot of years to go. Well, that's not a
Yeah.
downer. You got many years left to go, Ben. but
Hope so.
unfortunately, your oral health in terms of your teeth, that will
Mm.
probably be continue to be
An issue.
exactly. Thank you. A challenge. I was going to say, put it positively, a challenge. So if we go on to my next subject that I had in mind, which is still within the mouth, and relating to that, I remember you telling us a lot in the group in terms of being able to open your mouth wide
Yeah.
enough, and the difficulties you've had with that locked jaw, the exercises you have to do. So again, can you talk us through like the sort of routines you've built up to maintain your jaw health, shall we call it?
Yeah. Um, I have a Celebite, um, which is like a, it's not like a plant, but it's like in reverse, where you close it, it opens rather than you closing it and tighten it.
So to
And
anyone
that's
who's never
adjustable.
seen a terabyte, I describe it's usually blue and it looks a bit like a gun, but it
Mm.
has a slot in it, and the instead of something clamping down, it opens. And I guess the bite is you're resisting the opening.
You,
That's where the
you,
pressure.
yeah, you're not resisting so much as you place it in your mouth and you don't as wide as you're comfortable, and then you hold it, but it's really more control.
So is it
If
more
you
to
just it,
stretch?
yeah, if you just open your mouth and try to hold it, closing night it won't hold the same.
Mm,
And the idea is to take that little bit of a stretch, but not hurt yourself.
mhm.
Um, and it's adjustable, so you can get a wider stretch out of it or a small stretch or whatever your mouth is.
Mm.
Um,
Which again is variable. It's not
mm,
always the same. You don't always have the same amount of opening. Sometimes it's low and you have to build it up again, and you go through cycles. And what causes the? Do you know what causes the differences? Is it just, does your
it's
jaw have a
mostly
mood or?
it's mostly down to the temperature at the
Mhm.
moment, and I expect some feeling run down, extremely tired, which if I'm on my insomnia cycle, that is immense sometimes. It really impacts um,
Mm.
how my mouth opens, how it functions. Um, so yeah, that it what controls inflammation in the tissues controls
Yeah,
that
yeah,
side.
and I assume if you end up eating a tomato soup, that will have an impact on it.
Not so much now, but sort of heals. It's been
Mm.
7 years. I can now manage that.
Oh, that's great. Oh,
And one
fantastic.
of the few people that can manage curries as well.
Yeah, yeah,
And not for
curries.
karma, I can go up to Madras.
Wow, I can't go to Madras and I didn't have radiation, but that's a whole other topic. That's because I'm a wuss. So speaking about your mobility, so we covered the jaw mobility, and I remember, I think it was a couple of years ago now, you started to mention that it probably was even longer ago, but you started to mention
Mm.
that you were having mobility issues with your neck. Um,
Yes.
can you, if we try and go through this chronologically, how long after radiation, roughly, did you start to feel pain in your neck, or was it just continuous and got worse? And what were sort of the early warning signs that something wasn't right?
I've always had like since surgery and radiation, I've always had like tightness in there. Um,
So you're
and
pointing to the area where you had your neck dissection
yeah,
scarring, roughly, yeah?
yeah, sort of. I've always had that tightness there, and that is better than worse. Varies, I think, again with temperatures and stuff like
Yeah. So,
that.
and you would say, sorry, you said tightness. So, like,
Yes, sorry.
is that the cling film neck that we often
Mm,
refer to? Yeah. So it's again, for anyone who's isn't aware, it feels and looks like you have your skin is as tight as cling film around your neck, and with
mm.
that, the mobility doesn't quite move as
It's
much
not
yet.
as yeah. But about as sometime around as I hit 5 years, maybe a little bit later, I was starting to develop um, pains in the back muscles of my neck. Um,
And I
to the
think it's
point where
really
I couldn't
interesting.
turn my head.
So
Yeah.
you couldn't turn your. So I find it's really important that you're mentioning the word muscle now. So it's not in your bones, it's not in your joints, it's not in your skin. It feels like a muscle pain,
Mm.
and alongside the
And
back.
like, if you ever hit a muscle,
Yeah.
uh, and it like if you bust around, you get a dead arm kind of thing, sort of that, but like always, it doesn't seem to go away.
Mm.
Um, I wound up doing the Batman film for a while, where sort of to turn seasonally, sort of like turn the whole body.
Hmm.
Um,
That's quite a big signal if you can't wiggle your head to left to right, and instead having to use your shoulders to look left and right. Is that at the time that you went? Did you go to your team or your GP or who?
I went to uh, advise my oncology, I advised my GP, and I went to see late effects. And then quite lucky with late effects team in the radiotherapy department in Derby. It's not one in surgery actually, so it just so happens I'm going through this at the time that that's created, and I went down to see them. Um, they referred me to speech and language to help with. I know that seems obscure stuff. What's that got to do with speech and language in the back of your head? But they also deal with like the muscle type areas and stuff like that. They then referred me to physio
So they
and
refer.
pain management.
So I'm just checking. So you were with the late effects team in Derby. They referred you to speech and language. And speech and language basically said you need a physio to go and have a look. Yeah. And then you had some physio, some massages, some exercises.
Exercises, and they incorporate some exercises, some stretches. Important thing is the stretches and exercises that they give you after your surgery. You really should keep doing those, especially if you have radiation. And not just for a few weeks, they are sort of part of your life.
Like an
That's no,
ongoing rehab. I must admit,
again,
I
no one
never.
told me.
No, I must admit, I didn't get any exercises after surgery. They kind of
How
just
did you
told
not
me,
do the hunched shoulders and
no, I just had pain in my shoulder, but then it was COVID, so hence I can't move my
yeah,
arm
it's
anymore.
awful look after you.
I know, but it was COVID. Nobody had time, so I figured it out for myself now. But basically, and actually, I don't know if that many people get. Maybe Derby has a specialism in that, but I don't think that many of us get exercises in terms of back, neck muscles, and also, no one really taught me how to massage my scar either. So
No, I didn't know.
no, which is another thing we need to sort of tap in and bridge that gap. But okay, so you had your exercise. So basically, your word of wisdom, hindsight's 2020, is continue your exercises they gave you straight out of hospital, because that will help prevent a lot of this. One thing I'm curious about, because we haven't given this a name yet. At this point, did anyone tell you what this condition was, or did they sort of say, oh yeah, that's normal because he had radiation, or what was your sort of grasp of what was happening?
It is what's it called now? It's something fibrosis in something radio-induced fibrosis.
Yeah, radiation
It's got
induced. Yeah.
it's got a really long name to it, and it's just
Yeah.
basically it means that it's fibrosis of the muscle tissues, which is the same as the problem that I've got with them now. So a lot of people have their mouths that's with have radiation. That's fibrosis. It just means that the scar tissues created there, and the muscle and all tissues are damaged.
Damage. And it was the word fibrosis that I was teasing out of you. So I just wanted to. I wanted us to go about it backwards, not to call it fibrosis and then describe it, but to describe it and say that's what fibrosis is. And you also mentioned you were referred to pain management, which I know is an ongoing relationship that you have with pain management. I know. I'm just going to tell before. I know you've had some really interesting stories with pain management where you didn't quite get the doses right. Ben, it was a miscommunication. But I guess my question is, where are you now? Like, do you feel you can manage your pain quite well? Is it chronic pain? How
I'm
does it
managing,
impact?
I'm managing it well. I have, uh, since I started doing the physio exercises and the pain management, I've done. I went from being able to do stuff to not being able to do stuff to, and now back to sort of almost how I was before. But I'm sort of building some muscles back up, so every once in a while I'm vamping, but I understand what I.
Yes, but that's a really important journey to show everyone, is that, you know, none of us want these side effects. Unfortunately, many of us will experience them,
Mm,
and it's really scary. And also, I mean, pain is just, it's horrible and it feels never ending. But
that's very.
I find it really important that we demonstrate. We've got Ben here. He's been through the excruciating pain and he has been able to find a way to manage. And you're working, you're very active. You've got a lovely dog that you walk every day, and you come up Snowdon with us, and you're still very active. So there's a lot, you know, a lot in your life. Doing that segue now, because I just looking at the time and I know we need to wrap up soon. Um, and that is one thing I really, really admire about you, Ben. You have so much, you filled your life with so much fun and so much joy in, I don't know if you can tell our listeners what other things you do, other than being an amazing member of our community, which I'll highlight in a little bit, but you fill your time with some really exciting projects, like your theatre and creative projects.
Yes. I am currently working. Well, I spend a bit of time with the. I'm trying to remember it. Valley Theatres communities, and they are a charity organisation to help people like myself and others have a bit more access to arts and creativity and outlets that would normally not be accessible to us.
Mm.
I'm also working on ideas for a play of some description, but that's all sort of,
Work in progress.
yeah.
But yeah, I really love it, and I so love it every time we meet and you update me on all the things that you've been up to, because I just think it would be so easy not, if you get what I mean.
Mm.
It'd be just so easy for you to just isolate yourself and not go
That's
out there and meet people. And I really admire that you've pushed against that and you make a conscious decision to go out there.
it's so easy to listen to that sort of drop in, stay in, don't don't put yourself through it, but you miss out on so much if you do.
Mm.
Um, you've got to go out, you've got to see stuff, otherwise you don't do anything.
Absolutely. And that brings me to the point, Ben. You are so lovely. So I just, for everyone who's not part of the Facebook group or the WhatsApp groups, or the sort of inner workings of the community, Ben, you came to our first ever virtual meetup before, when we were called the Young Tongues Babes, before we were called the Young Tongues, or Tongue Cancer Babes, I think at the time was the sort of working title. And you were the only bloke, if I remember correctly, on the call, and you kept showing up. And what's even more impressive is you still keep showing up daily. Ben, you have the most loveliest way to support individuals in our community. You have so Ben replies a lot to people's questions, and what I really like is that you always give a really nuanced answer, really well thought answer, never a short answer, mind you, but with a lot in depth and a lot of really helpful information. And the fact that you take the time to do that, I think, just shows who you are at your core so beautifully. And I just want to say on behalf of everyone at the Young Tongues, myself and the trustees and the wider community, thank you so much for being such a superstar over the years and for supporting so many people along the way, not only in the Young Tongues but also other charities like the Mouth Cancer Foundation, and I know you've probably done some work with the Oral Health Foundation as well, and many others as well. So I just really wanted to publicly pay tribute to that work you do, that it's not unnoticed, and you're really, really important actually to everything that we do. We quite frankly couldn't have the charity without you, so thank you so much.
Thank you. That means a lot. I'm off the words.
That's all right.
But yeah, thank you so much for that, and thank you for creating this basis charity that wasn't around when I first went through this. It was literally like the Wild West, and trying to find people it's connected with, and that unique to actually up balls going through that. Whereas like this, you could be like younger people can meet, can talk, can discuss everything.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you
very
so much. No, thank you. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for sharing your story with us on the podcast, for coming on. I know it's hotly anticipated by quite a lot of our community members, especially for those whose speech has been impacted. And I've had a couple of people going, I just want to hear Ben's first, and then maybe I'll come on too. So I'm speaking to the few people, you know who you are, you're listening to this. I hope this has given you inspiration to come and share your story as well. Absolutely. Thank you so much to our listeners as well for tuning in again. We will be back in a week's time with another fabulous guest, and I wish you all a brilliant week. Thank you so much. Bye bye.